Okay, so we'll now call the meeting to order. The time is 3 o'clock. First of all, I want to welcome our new member to the Heritage Committee, Karen Hume. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, we'll proceed with item number 2, approval of the agenda. That the agenda for the Prescott Heritage Committee meeting of November 23rd, 2023 be approved as presented. Do I have a mover? Louis, seconder, Ray? All in favor? Motion carried. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none? Okay, item number 4 is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. I have a recommendation that reads that the Prescott Heritage Committee minutes dated October 25th, 2023 be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover? Lee? Seconder? Louis? All in favor? Motion carried. Okay. Item 5 is staff report from the clerk, Lindsay Velkamp. This report is for information only. Ms. Velkamp, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. This report highlights some of the responses from the committee members on the second grouping of properties under review. The second grouping of properties includes 177 Dibble Street East, 147 Dibble Street West, 175 James Street West, St. John's Anglican Church, 305 Centre Street, and 392 Edward Street. The Ontario Heritage Act provides the 9 determining criteria that the committee has been using to review these properties. The owners of the 5 properties under review were given notice of the meeting via email or mail and also provided to their residents with an opportunity to attend this evening's meeting. As said previously at the past meetings, I'll speak to each property, the response is given, and then the committee can ask any questions of Fraser Lashinger. He's here from the Granville County Historical Society, and then any property owners for these first 5 properties can speak when their property comes up. So the first property is 177 Dibble Street East, Fraser House. Granville County Historical Society recommendation was unanimous in no designation. And based on the feedback from the committee, the majority of committee members felt that the property did not meet a lot of the criteria. In total, none of the members agreed that any of the 9 criteria were met. Based on this feedback, the committee would suggest potentially dropping this property from the list to move forward for consideration for designation. I don't believe anybody is here from 177 Dibble to speak to the property. The next property was 147 Dibble Street West, St. John's Manse. The unanimous recommendation from the Granville County Historical Society was no designation. Feedback from the committee showed that the committee members felt agreed that the property met at least one of the criteria unanimously, and the majority of members agreed that 2 criteria out of the 9 were met. Based on that feedback, staff would recommend that this property moves forward for further consideration for designation. I don't believe anyone's here from 147 Dibble West. The next property is 175 James Street West, St. John's Anglican Church. The unanimous recommendation from the Granville County Historical Society was for heritage designation of this property. All committee members agreed that 6 out of 9 criteria were met for designation for this property. Just a notice that this property received the most criteria met by the committee when compared to the last 5 groupings, just as an example. Again, based on that criteria 6 out of 9, staff would recommend that this property move forward for further consideration for designation as well. And I do believe we have someone representing St. John's Anglican Church here.
Can I just say that the address is not right? Okay. It's 490 Centre Street. 175 is the hall that was severed, and it's actually 173.
Okay.
We did wonder about that.
Yeah. But other than that, that's I'm glad to hear that.
Any questions from the committee? property is 305 Center Street, the surgery. The Granville County Historical Society, their unanimous recommendation was for heritage designation of this property. The committee members agreed that this property met 5 out of 9 of the criteria. Again, that's a fairly high response based on the previous properties that have been reviewed. So based on that number, staff would recommend that this property come forward as well for further consideration for heritage designation. I don't believe we have anyone from 305 here this evening. And the last property is 392 Edward Street, Bruce Hutchinson birthplace. The Granville County Historical Society majority recommendation was for heritage designation. And feedback from the committee members found that 3 out of the 9 criteria had been met. Again, since only 1 out of 9 criteria have to be met in order to be considered for heritage designation, it does seem that the committee was kind of unsure, so staff would recommend this property continue on in the process for further deliberation for heritage designation. I believe that is all. Is there any question from the committee? That's my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is staff report from Clerk Lindsay Velkamp. This report is for information only. Ms. Velkamp, would you like to speak to the report?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I have another presentation here. Just give me 1 second to pull up. So through you, Madam Chair, before the committee is the 3rd grouping of properties for review. The 3rd grouping of properties include 100 to 120 King Street East, 495 King Street West, 691 Water Street, 202 to 214 King Street West, and Water Street, the Glasgow Smythe building. Again, notice of the meetings were provided to the property owners. And as I previously mentioned, Fraser Lashinger is here from the Granville County Historical Society to provide any further information should the committee wish or have any questions. Again, same process if you'd like, the committee would like, we do have some of the property owners in the audience this evening. So we can go through each property one at a time and the committee can ask any questions and then feedback from the audience. The first property before the committee is 100 to 120 King Street East, the Revere House. The Granville County Historical Society recommendation was for no designation. You can see in the presentation the criteria that the Granville County Historical Society felt the property had met. This is the same criteria and the same checklist that the committee takes home to review as well for the property. So I'm not quite sure if the committee has any questions from Fraser in regards to this property. I don't believe anyone's here from 100 to 120 King Street. The next property is 495 King Street West, Rosamond House. The recommendation from the Granville County Historical Society was for no designation for this property. Again, you'll see the criteria that the Granville County Historical Society felt this property met. I'm not quite sure if the committee has any questions, but I do believe the property owners are here this evening.
Yes. Questions? Because I didn't hear everything you said.
Okay.
Is it being considered or is it just being considered? I didn't hear what you said.
So through you, Madam Chair, the first, when the group first comes, the committee just reviews and they take the information from the Granville County Historical Society to help make the decision. So the first time it comes to the committee, they review it, they ask the questions, they're provided background information from the Granville County Historical Society to help make their decision. The next meeting, it'll come forward and they'll provide their feedback, the same criteria that are outlined by the Ontario Heritage Act.
So the ones we just heard have been looked at?
Yes, so that'll be the process next. And then there'll be a further discussion towards the end. There are 25 properties to go through, so the committee will look at the properties that are moving on just for discussion. No decisions are being made this evening, so it's just kind of an ongoing discussion. But there is a deadline that we have to make, the committee has to make a decision by the end of 2024.
Just wanted to know how the process.
Of course.
Yeah. Question. We really don't have a decision on whether it's accepted or not. I mean, you shouldn't want it, but there's no, how can I say, there's no, if you didn't want it, is that possible or?
Now's the time to say so.
No, I'm not saying just for me. I'm just saying it was a question that I've heard, in your stories. And I'm wide open for it. I have no issues with that. I just wondered if you do have a choice.
I believe the recommendation of the Historical Society is no,
Okay,
but
okay.
this committee has an opportunity to say no or yes.
Right, I get you. Okay. Just something. Thank you.
We do take your opinion and wishes into consideration now.
Okay.
And if you were adamantly opposed to it being designated, we would take that under consideration. But the purpose of this committee is to preserve the heritage of the town, the town's buildings, its history, its story, and that really takes precedence over your wishes. But if it was a toss-up, wishes probably might just die.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee? No? Okay.
Okay.
Next property.
Property?
Yep.
Okay, the next property is 691 Water Street, the Crichton House. The recommendation from the Granville County Historical Society, the majority recommended no designation for this property. Again, you can see the criteria that the Historical Society felt the property met, and I do believe we have the property owners of 691 here this evening.
What's the criteria? It doesn't meet the criteria, but what are they?
We can't read
I can't read that.
So through you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
So the Ontario Heritage Act, the regulations do provide the 9 criteria, and they're specific to, I guess, different kinds of things. For example, some of them are, is there value in the property because it's a landmark? Does it demonstrate a high degree of technical or scientific achievement? Does it represent a rare, unique, early style type of construction method? Member Young just provided you with the criteria there.
Thank you. We had no comments.
No problems? Okay, the next property?
The next property is 202 to 214 King Street West, the Davis Building. The Granville County Historical Society recommendations unanimously recommended heritage designation on these properties. Again, you can see the criteria that the Granville County Historical Society felt this property met. And I do not believe we have any property owners present for these properties. So I'm not quite sure if the committee has any questions.
Any questions from any of the committee? Comments? No?
Okay, and the last property this evening is Water Street, Glasgow Smythe Building, Gibson's Hotel. And the recommendation from the Granville County Historical Society, it was a unanimous recommendation for a heritage designation on this property. And again, you can see the criteria that the Historical Society felt this property met. I'm not sure if there's any questions, but I do know the property owner is here this evening.
Just half of that building.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. 251 is already designated.
Any other comments from the committee?
The owners are here for this property, right?
Yes.
You have any, how you doing?
Hi,
You're looking, I assume you're probably looking for it to be a
I'm
heritage?
very happy to have it designated.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
Does the property owner have any comments? No?
Just that I'm very happy that the designation would stay. I was on the original LACA committee way back, long before I owned this building. And it was certainly one of the prime buildings that was designated, along with the others that have either been declined or accepted in the last few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Sure.
Sandra, I know Richard,
You'll have to speak up, I can barely hear you.
okay, I haven't really said anything. I know the original plan for your buildings was to separate them, and through an unfortunate death, everything kind of went topsy-turvy there, but is there a plan by you to separate those buildings?
They've
Or are they
already
for-
been separated.
Have they?
Yes, they have.
Oh, okay. The center block section's been torn down?
There's 4 units there, and that entire building has been separated legally and properly into 4 separate structures.
Okay, but what I was referring to is the building facing King Street and this building were connected by a cement block building. Is that still there?
Still is.
And you have no intention of doing anything with that? It's for sale the way it is?
At the moment, it's for sale the way it is, but, things can change. I poured a great deal of money into all of that in hopes that it would be an asset to the downtown. But the King Street is for sale right now, and formally, the King Street address.
Okay, thank you.
Fraser?
Madam Chair, if I could ask a question through you. Sandra, the severance of the 4 units on Water Street, I'm just curious as to how you made the severance in the middle where you see the archway and 1 window above it. Did that go with the unit on the left or to the unit on the
It
right?
goes with the unit on your left, yes.
The one on the
If
left?
you look at it, yes.
Yeah. So the first unit on the left, which is designated, is the 2 windows above.
Yes,
The next unit are the 3 windows above,
yes,
and then the next 2, and the next 2 are
yeah.
also
And-
separate.
But one of the units is, a bit larger than the other.
Yes.
I have all the
Dimensions, yeah.
the drawings and whatnot here, if anybody needs to see them.
That's the reason for that is because the 2 lots were sold within a year to the Glasgow's and the Smythes. And the Smythes had a wider lot than the Glasgow's by a couple of feet. Which is why, if you're on King Street, the 2 stores that were built
Yes,
at the
I
same
know
time,
all of that.
one is narrower than the other.
And
Yeah,
Moxie Whitney lived in the one on our left, on the westerly node.
yes,
Yes, and he was a very famous
they were apartments.
Prescott person.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of our firefighters was born in one of those units, actually, Mr. Countryman.
Oh, is that right, Bill?
And his mother gave birth to him in one of those units. I can't tell you the number.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments? No? Okay, the next top one is new business. Is there any new business? No? Okay. So there's no media here. The next one is adjournment. Item number 8 is adjournment. I have a recommendation that the Prescott Heritage Committee meeting be adjourned. The time is 3:19. Do I have a mover? Right? Seconder?